This is the Our Town with Troy By, North Alabama's podcast. As I sit here across from Charles H. Souther, Charles Hoover Souther, born in 1929, correct?
Right.
And remind me what month you were born in?
February 12th.
February 12th.
Abe Lincoln's birthday.
Abe Lincoln's birthday, that's right. And my younger brother Ryan is his birthday. So
is that right?
You just had your birthday.
Uh-huh.
So you were so let's set the stage here. How did I come across Charles? Well, your last name is Souther, which is my wife's maiden name. Mm-hmm. She is the daughter of Roby and Cindy Souther, and Cindy was from Gainesville, Florida, and Roby was from Missouri, right? And then grew up in Illinois, and so Kirkwood, Illinois, is where Wendy was when I met her, and well, she had left from there, and when we got married, we went to Kirkwood, little village. And interestingly, I knew one other Souther, although he pronounced his name Souther in Virginia.
Yeah.
He was a substitute teacher. His name was Jesse Souther. And this was in Herndon, Virginia. So I was familiar with the surname Souther, and then I meet her, and they pronounce it Souther. And so at some point, when we moved to Alabama, we live in Madison. You're in Huntsville. Are you Huntsville or Madison?
I'm in Huntsville.
You're in Huntsville.
Yeah.
Somehow Wendy's dad and mom came across you as a relative, and you worked on the Arsenal for Wernher von Braun, and we started the search, I guess, and maybe Roby reached out to you and visited with you, I think, and said, sure enough, we should have him. He said, you should have him on your show. Like, that's a great idea.
Well, I don't know if it's a great idea or not.
Well, it's wonderful for a few reasons. And you are the author. So not just because you're a relative, but you are an author of From the Mules and Wagon to the Space Shuttle.
Uh-huh.
Right? From Charles Hoover Souther.
Yeah.
Now, I am wearing a shirt. Do you recognize this shirt at all? It's actually E.T. Remember the movie E.T. Extraterrestrial? What was that, like in the 70s?
I probably saw it sometime, but
this is a not a spoof or a gag. It's a funny shirt because they're sitting on a rocket. And this is a guy named Jonathan Fowler who lives locally, and his company's called Fow Wow Designs, and he just takes interesting concepts. So there's a scene, I think, where they're kind of flying. I don't even know what they were flying on, but in the movie, but you see the silhouette of Elliot and E.T., the extraterrestrial, sitting on a rocket, right? So it makes sense. It's funny in Huntsville. And I figure I'd wear that for you today since...
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
Since we're going to talk about rockets. And Wendy, my wife, is in the studio as well. And is do we have a now? Do we know if you're like third cousins?
I don't know. I don't know.
Five times removed?
We're distant cousins.
Distant cousins?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Charles, let's start with your middle name. You said there's a story with Charles Hoover Souther, and we'll go from there.
Well, I was born in 1929. Charles Curtis was vice president. Herbert Hoover was president. I was named after the vice president and the president.
Okay.
Charles Hoover Souther.
Was this your mom's idea or your dad's idea?
My dad's idea.
Okay.
My mom's side of the family, they were mostly Democrats.
Okay.
My dad's side of the family were mostly Republicans, all the way back to the Civil War. And when my granddad on my mom's side of the family found out what they had named me, being a yellow dog Democrat, he said, that's awful. Said the hoot owls will fly over and they'll say, Hoover. His name was Mauney.
Mauney?
Robert Vance Mauney, Mauney, Mauney.
M-A-U, okay. Yeah. Wow. So here's what, no matter where you live in this country, I would hope that people, even though sometimes people will make fun of somewhere that they're from, I feel, and the reason I named my show the Our Town is you have a specific amount of pride of where you came from.
Yeah.
And we're going to launch into this, but I don't think there's anything more Southern and more country than being from Gumlog, Union County, Georgia.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Gumlog.
Now that's back in the sticks.
That is, and it's near the North Carolina border, correct?
Our county joins the North Carolina border.
It is very far north and west in the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
And like you said, is there still not much there?
Well, it's growed, and a lot of people from Florida and other places come up there and want to build them a mountain cabin, for vacation and that sort of thing. And it's getting kind of covered up with houses hanging up on top of the bluffs and all.
Yeah.
My brother used to build houses, and these people come up from Florida in the fall of the year when all the colors are in bloom, and that's when they come up. Real nice weather and beautiful scenery. Well, one guy that my brother built a house for came up from Florida. He wanted a bluff lot where he had a beautiful scenery of all the mountains. Well, my brother built his house, and it so happened he moved in. And it so happened that winter they had an unusually cold winter, which happens sometimes.
Right.
It rained and froze, snowed on top of that, and he was stranded about a month or 6 weeks, couldn't get up and down his driveway. He was
1 second. That might have been me. Okay. I think we're okay now.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead and snowed?
Yeah, it snowed, and this fellow was stranded in his house for about a month, maybe 6 weeks. And my brother said springtime come and it thawed up, and he packed up and moved back to Florida. So he had never been there in the wintertime. So that does happen up there sometimes.
Yeah.
Not every year, but sometimes. I have seen 30 inches of snow once or twice.
What's the elevation in Gumlog?
The highest, I don't know in Gumlog, but the highest peak in Georgia is 4,784 feet. That's Brasstown Ball. And that's about 20 miles south of Gumlog.
Okay. Now, Cashiers, North Carolina, where Cindy Souther, her family, again from Gainesville, her father had had a Christmas tree farm in Cashiers, and I think at Yellow Mountain it's like 5,200 feet, around 5,000 feet. So you're getting up in the Great Smoky Mountains there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they call it the Blue Ridge, but it's really part of the southern part of the Appalachian.
But yeah, right. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Just lots of different names, right?
Yeah.
So I wish you had been born in like 1896.
Well, I'd be an old codger now.
Because it's impressive. You're going on, you just turned 97.
Yeah.
Right? And is that right? 97? Yeah, you just turned 97.
Right, yeah.
And you've seen, what's interesting, as I think you're the oldest guest I've had. I think the next oldest guest might be in their 60s. But this is fascinating to me, right? If for all of us who you have seen a lot in your 97 years, the rate of change has just been spectacular, right? With advances, and now we're even advancing even faster and faster with things.
Yeah.
I think of like Charles Lindbergh flew over the ocean in 1927, right? From New York to Paris. And you're born in 1929 at the beginning, basically, of the Great Depression, right? The Roaring '20s come and go.
Yeah.
So all you really knew, Gumlog is already a very, dare I say, impoverished area, right? You didn't even have an outhouse. Is that correct? That's right. Yeah. You just used the woods.
Well, some people had an outhouse, but it was just a little building with a bench and a hole in the ground.
Right.
A hole in the bench and then a hole down in the ground.
Gotcha. And so you're the oldest of your mother and father's children.
Yes.
And then you mentioned your brother, and you had twin brothers, Sewell and Buell?
Buell and Sewell.
Sewell and Buell.
Yeah.
Which was the house builder?
Sewell. Yeah.
What did Buell do?
He worked on the farm till he got up, growing. I don't know how old he was, but he went, Lockheed Aircraft built a plant in Marietta. He went down and went to work for Lockheed, and he finally retired from there. So he was a machinist, I think, with Lockheed.
Are they both alive still?
No, they both passed on.
Really?
Yeah.
How did they pass?
Well, just I don't know exactly general sickness and that they just I don't know exactly what all their ailments were, but
Not a family disease or anything like that?
not that I know of. No.
And what about your parents? How did they pass?
Well, Mom just kind of faded away. She got kind of feeble and just got. I don't know what really her diagnosis was, but she just got weak and probably heart failure. I don't know exactly.
Did she make it to her 90s?
Yeah, she was 91.
91.
That's another unusual thing too. She wasn't supposed to make it. She weighed 3 pounds when she was born.
That's right.
And no hospital. I mean, all the babies were born at home back then. And some of the family or some of the friends, I don't know who it was, made some clothes to bury her in.
Yeah.
Like they looked like little doll clothes. I think my daughter still got them. So she made it to 91.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And what about your father?
He was like 5 days, I believe, being 97. So
Wow.
I'm a little older now than he was.
So you got some good longevity in your genes.
Well, some of my distant relatives that I know of made it to 103 and 104. The fella, Watson Dyer, I think his mother was a Souther. I think she made it to 103, and he made it, I think, to 104.
Really?
So that's two relatives, distant relatives there.
Wow. And I wonder how much of that is, in reading the book, and the book is a nice chronology of your life, and it's also, I think, it's indicative of if you have a parent that might be aging and you want to say, hey, mom, hey, dad, we want to capture your life,
Yeah.
They might start a tape recorder or
Yeah.
start a journal
Yeah.
entry. And it seems like whatever kind of came to mind for you as a memory, you jotted it down. Because it's a nice read where you may have just a paragraph or two of something that you remembered.
Yeah.
I chuckled when you talked about, I brought up like the outhouse, because you said it was a good use of like the prior year's catalog.
Yeah,
You saved these catalogs, and that was
Sears
basically
Roebuck
your
catalog.
Yeah.
That was yeah.
That was your toilet paper, right?
Yeah.
But you also talk about just making things, and I got to say, Violet Souther, her grandmother, Roby's mother, made fun of me when she first met me. She called me a city slicker, even though I was from the suburbs, because I didn't grow up on a farm, and we didn't grow up in with just kind of just basic lower middle class, but I didn't know how to make certain foods.
Yeah.
Or make my own soap, and things like that.
Yeah.
Some really great practical skills that Wendy taught me, or that you would learn on a farm or in poorer conditions. But I wonder how much of your longevity just comes from not always having to buy some product that may be harmful to you or not as good for your health as we might think. And you made your own soap, and you did your own things to combat a cold or the flu.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well,
and how young you were, I guess, when you kind of learned how to do these things?
I remember they had something called acidity, and I really don't know what that word means. I just heard it. And they would, I think they would wrap it up in a little piece of rag or cloth and hang it around your neck, and you get the odors from it. And then, of course, we had Vicks salve. Of course, we had to buy that. Vicks salve and turpentine on a neck rag for a sore throat. Put that around your neck, and you sleep with it at night. And then, of course, Epsom salts. That was the laxative. And it was used for other things, too, I think.
Yeah.
And just things like that. And then they'd gather some kind of herbs, and I've heard of yellow root. I don't know much about it, and I don't remember what it was for, but I remember hearing them talk about getting yellow root as a remedy for something. And it was kind of, people would consider that very crude, I guess, today. And so we just had to do with what we had, and you didn't go to the doctor unless you're really sick.
Yeah.
We go to the doctor today and get checkups, and I do. I go every 6 months now to get a checkup. And back when I was growing up, you didn't go to the doctor unless you were really sick.
Mm-hmm. Was that also just lack of proximity? I don't know about insurance and cost, but those are some of the limiting factors of just not being able to afford it.
I think all of that.
Yeah.
I remember when my brothers were born, my dad had to go to town to get the doctor to come out. And I don't remember if he had a car by that time, but the earlier doctors, they come out on a mule. They had their medical bag hanging on the side of their saddle, and could deliver babies at home. That's the way it was done back then.
So they were born in like 1935, your brothers? 1936?
Yeah. I can't recall the exact date right now, but that's about right, yeah.
So, I'm sure it's hard for certain people to wrap their heads around growing up like that.
Yeah.
Right. With now you have all these modern conveniences, but
we
you didn't know any better, right? Like
we didn't have electricity in the house. The first electric lights I had was in an army barracks.
Really?
And my dad, the power line had come through before I went in the Army, but my dad was going to build a new house, so he didn't want to go to the trouble of wiring the old house and then in a year or two have to do it again with the new house he was going to build.
But how old were you when you kind of realized, or did you, that you didn't have maybe what's other Americans and other cities in the South had?
I think that kind of come on gradually. You realize that, I remember when we didn't even have a radio. As a matter of fact, World War II started. We still didn't have a radio.
Really?
I remember that day.
1939 or
1941, December.
When the U.S. got involved.
Yeah, right, December 7th.
Yep.
I was with some young people in our neighbor's cow pasture, John Hood's cow pasture, with some young people playing ball.
That was a Sunday.
On a Sunday. We'd been to church, and after lunch, after church, we had a ball game. Well, John Hood, our neighbor, they had a radio. Of course, they had to operate it off of batteries back then. They didn't have electricity in the house. And his wife come out where we were playing ball and told us about the Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor. That's how I got that news.
How did you react?
Oh, I probably didn't understand the full consequences of it at that time, but I don't guess I really understood what it meant at that time.
In another part of your book, you talked about like the first time you saw a black person.
Oh,
Had you even seen a Japanese or an Asian person at that point in your life?
No.
Okay.
I'd heard people talk about them, just conversation. And my dad took me along with him. He went down to Murphy, North Carolina. That's about 18 miles from where we live, just across the line. And we rode down there with somebody that was hauling pulpwood down there. We rode down there with them. I don't think we even had a vehicle at that time. Anyway, I was at Murphy, and there's a few black people at Murphy, and I'd see them coming up the sidewalk, and I just looked at them and tried to get a picture of who is that,
Yeah.
So that was kind of amazing to me.
Yeah, and I would imagine maybe similarly for them, like the first time they saw a white person.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
I remember I was really young when I lived with my grandparents for a while, and I went from an all-white school in Utah to just outside Washington, D.C., where white was like the minority. And I had Chinese friends and Japanese friends and people, kids from Denmark, Australia. It was like this cultural experience, like, wow, and going to their homes and and eating their food and smells and whatnot.
Yeah.
So what? So and then from like a schooling perspective, remind me. I'm sure I read about it, but what did schooling look like for you from the time you were very young through like by the time you went to the military?
I went to a country school. Ebenezer was the name of it. It was right next door to Ebenezer Church. That was about a mile from where we lived. And of course, I had to walk to school.
Mm-hmm.
About half that distance was a foot trail through the woods, and the rest of the way was on a dirt road. So I had to walk to school up through the 7th grade. The grammar school only went through the 7th grade at that time.
And it was a public school?
Huh?
It was a public school?
Oh, yeah. And all 7 grades, we had a 2-room schoolhouse.
Mm.
And all, 1 through 4 was in one room, and 5, 6, and 7 were in the other room, in there together. And if the teacher was having the class, like for the 7th grade, well, everybody else in the room could hear it going on, and vice versa, So that's the way it was. And then when I got promoted to high school, I still had to catch. I had to catch the bus, and I still had to walk a mile to catch the bus. I caught the bus right close to the location where the country school was located. So it was, you had to walk, rain or shine. It didn't matter. I mean, about a half a mile through a foot trail through the woods, and then on a dirt road the rest of the way.
And I understand it was always uphill both ways. Isn't that what you tell your daughters, right?
It seemed like it, yeah.
That's always a fun. I walked to school. I don't know. I guess I walked maybe a half mile.
Uh-huh.
That's like unheard of these days, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
If you walk, you have to live very close to the school, right?
Yeah.
Or have a crossing guard and
Yeah.
things. But did you, what time did you get up? Did you have chores to do, whether it was the weekend or the weekdays?
On the weekend. I usually didn't have to do chores when I was going to school.
Okay.
But I had to get up. When I got into high school, that was worse than going to grammar school because the county only had 4 school buses. Each bus had to make 2 runs.
Mm.
Well, unfortunately, I was on the first run in the morning and the last run in the afternoon. So I had to leave the house before daylight in the morning. And we'd get to school, and we'd sit there about an hour and a half, 2 hours, while he went to the other end of the county to get his second load.
Oh, my.
And then school would take up. And in the afternoon, then, vice versa. We sat there till he went to the other end of the county and delivered to those kids, and then he'd come and take us home. And unfortunately, the bus driver on our bus lived in our end of the county, so that's the reason it happened like that.
So you probably got up, and school didn't even start for another 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah,
after you actually got up.
At least 2 or 3. Yeah, I got up about 5 o'clock in the morning.
How did you get up back then?
Well,
no alarm clock, right? I mean,
well, you had them old wind-up clocks.
Okay.
The old. Yeah, you
Wind
had to
up
wind
and
them
last-
up with a key. You know,
Yeah.
you could wind up the part that made it run, and then the ticking part, I think. I don't remember exactly, but they were 2 keys you had to turn.
Okay.
In fact, I still got one of those.
Do you?
Yeah.
And then that last, you have to rewind it after 8 hours or 12 hours or something.
Yeah, about every day,
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Were you warm in the home, like throughout the year? Were you uncomfortable?
We had a fireplace. That was our heat.
Okay.
Of course, my mom cooked on a wood-burning cook stove.
Mm-hmm.
That heated the kitchen some. But the fireplace, it didn't heat the whole house like the heat we have now. You might get a little bit cold, so you'd get up closer to the fireplace and stand on the hearth and turn around every once in a while. I have done that in real cold weather.
So did you and your brothers spend a lot of time cutting wood?
Oh, yeah, we had to cut wood. We cut firewood and stove wood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
Well, I did it. I don't know that I enjoyed it that much, but I didn't mind it too bad. That was just the way it was, you know.
Were you competitive with your brothers? Did they like?
We played some games, and we'd get out and play cowboy and Indian, and we'd get out in the pasture and try to ride some of the cattle sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And most of our cattle were real gentle, you know. And I got on this old cow one day. I was going to ride her. Well, you get on a cow, you don't have any bridle or reins to guide them. Well, unfortunately, the cow trail went down across the spring branch, and bushes were growed up on each side, and the limbs were just above the cow's back.
Mm-hmm.
And the old cow started going with me on her, and I couldn't guide her. So she decided to go across the branch. And she went down that trail across the branch, and when she just got started good, them bushes drug me off over her rear end. Back of my head hit a rock. I saw 1,000 stars that day.
Oh boy. Did you have we talked a little bit about like sickness and stuff. Did you have any other significant injuries or illnesses when you were a child or a teenager?
I had all the normal things, the whooping cough, the measles.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I had the flu, and just the normal things like that. I never had, fortunately, and I never had a broke bone.
And you didn't have like, I can't remember, did you get the polio vaccine and stuff later, like in life? Or?
That was later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly when that was, but
yeah,
we didn't.
But okay.
We didn't get it real early.
What about, did you have a girlfriend in high school?
Well,
or even younger than that?
Not really. I guess I was a little bashful. I don't know, but compared to the way some of them are today. But I had some friends, but not in that sense. I don't think.
Now your wife was Christina?
Yeah.
Right, and you met her, I believe, after you got out of the military.
After I got out of the Army, yeah. After I got out of the Army
in 1951.
Yeah,
right?
I was stayed in the Army 3 years. The Korean War started. Fortunately, I didn't go to Korea. I went to Alaska.
Mm.
That's another thing.
That's anyway, where you were. Okay, you were stationed there.
Yeah, but anyway, after I got out of the Army, I went to work for the Navy in the Charleston Naval Shipyard. And I met Christina in South Carolina. She was a Geechee. You ever heard that term, Geechee?
I know I read it in the book, but remind me.
Gullah, I guess Gullah is the correct name, but that's a dialect that it's a mixture of English with different African language kind of superimposed and integrated into English. So she definitely had an accent that, but some of them that I met down there was much worse than her. And
where was she born?
She was born in Ridgeville, South Carolina.
But so did her parents immigrate from another country?
No, they were here. They were here early on. I don't know how long, but they were here.
She just picked up that dialect.
Oh yeah,
okay.
You go down there now, you'll probably recognize that dialect if you get out, especially out in the country.
Yeah, they say there's a place called it's not Tabor City, it's Tangier Island in Virginia, and you can't understand a word these people say.
It's
that came from Scotland, Ireland, or whatever, and they landed there, and over time. They've just created their own thing, and you can't understand it.
Geechee is similar to Cajun, only it's a little different.
Okay.
Yeah.
I bet you they have some good food.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, my wife was a good cook, and her mother was a good cook.
Did you eat well? Like, were you healthy? Like, were you getting enough to eat and stuff? And like, how were you getting your food in those years in Gumlog?
Oh, Well, we raised most of our food.
Did
we
you?
had a garden. Mostly everybody had a garden. You had hogs you killed every year.
So you get potatoes and vegetables
Potatoes,
and all that.
potatoes,
Okay.
beans, okra, most turnips,
Okay.
turnip greens, and other things. That I liked turnip greens, but I never did like turnips.
I'm not the biggest fan of turnips, and I probably didn't have a turnip until I met Violet.
Oh, is that right?
Until I met her grandmother.
Yeah.
And I had them at Thanksgiving, I guess, once.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that? And I shouldn't have said that. What is that? Because like, it's a turnip. You never had a turnip? Like, I haven't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Would you trade your childhood, or did you like it just the way it was?
Well, I don't have a choice, of course, but
Sure.
I'm glad I saw what I saw and experienced what I did. But some of it I wouldn't want to go through again.
Okay.
I mean, some of it was kind of hard, you know. We had to work. Children worked back then.
Sure.
I mean, I was. I don't know how old I was when I was plowing a mule by the time I was 10 or 12 years old, and I got the job of milking. Of course, when I went to school, I didn't have to milk, but I had to milk the cow every day. I was 9 or 10 years old when I started doing that. And some of the things I remember about that, if you're down there milking the cow, you know, and some fly gets on her or something, she switches her tail and hits you across the face. Now, that hurts like the dickens.
I bet.
And Buell and Sewell, see, I was nearly 6 years older than them.
Mm-hmm.
And they was probably 5 or 6 years old. They'd come out to where I was milking, and they'd stoop down and open their mouth, and I'd squirt milk in their mouth.
Oh. They probably didn't like that much, huh?
Well, they'd come out and wanted it.
Oh, they did? And you all got along well in your life?
Yeah.
The brothers?
Yeah.
Okay. You kept in touch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you get into the military, and boom, all of a sudden you're exposed to electricity and radios.
Oh, yeah. Well,
right? And
how I got into that, I joined after the war, after World War II. They were still having the draft.
Okay.
Well, I was just a little too young for World War II, but I was.
You were 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But after the war, they were still drafting, so I figured I would get drafted. So I started checking around. I thought maybe I'd just join up and get it over with, you know. So I checked around with the different services, and I think the Navy wanted you to sign up for 4 years, and I don't remember. Marine Corps might have been 3. But anyway, I found out you could join the Army for 2 years. So I decided to join up for 2 years and get it over with instead of waiting and getting drafted.
Mm-hmm.
So I went ahead and joined, and all the way to Fort Lewis, Washington for basic training, as far away from home as they could get me without getting out of the United States. That was before Alaska and Hawaii were states.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got through basic in the 2nd Infantry Division. Well, they reactivated an old outfit from way back, 4th Infantry Regiment. It had been deactivated. They reactivated it and put a bunch of us that had just finished basic into it. And well, I was in that a little while. They put me in the heavy tank company, and then I hadn't been in that new outfit but a short time. They gave us a bunch of aptitude tests. We had to answer questions about a whole day, I think, of taking the test. Well, after the test, the first sergeant called me into the orderly room. He asked me, "Would you like to go to radio school?" And the next thing he said really surprised me. He said, "You're the only one qualified if you want to go of the whole company that had took the test." I didn't think I was that smart or anything. So I said, "Yeah, I'll go." So it wasn't a short time after that I got orders to go to radio repair school. Camp Gordon, Georgia. That's down close to Augusta.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was there about a year. Went to school every day, 5 days a week. And I got through that. Back to Fort Lewis, back to my company. I think it was up into January. I got there on a Friday afternoon, late in the day. And the next morning, this lieutenant called me over to the orderly room, wanted to talk to me. And I still remember what he says. See, I expected to be put in a radio shop or, that was my job, my MOS, radio department. But he says, well, you can forget about radio for a while now. We're going to Mount Rainier tomorrow to learn how to ski. I'd never seen a pair of skis before. And my company had been getting ready for that for about a month or 6 weeks. Well, they issued me this parka and this Arctic sleeping bag and ski boots and all this stuff I'd never seen before. Well, the next morning, Sunday morning, I was on the back of a 2.5-ton truck with the rest of the troops headed for Mount Rainier to learn how to ski. Well, we stayed up there about 22 days, I think. We had 2 camps. We had the base camp and then the upper camp, and it was 9 miles from the base camp to the upper camp. Of course, we had to walk all the way up there, and I remember going up. We could walk on the snow. You know, it'd been run over enough with weasels and trucks. The snow was packed down. You could walk on it. You didn't sink. You didn't have to have snowshoes or skis. But anyway, about halfway up, the mess hall people, they had a hot pot of coffee there. We had a canteen and a canteen cup you carried on your belt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were made out of aluminum. That canteen cup was. So you went by the people and they was dishing out you half a canteen cup full of coffee. Well, I got that. I was glad to get that. But then I started to drink it, and, aluminum conducts heat good. Well, that cup was so hot I couldn't drink it. By the time the cup cooled off enough to drink the coffee, there was a little skim of ice on top of the coffee. So that was an unusual thing.
You had invented iced coffee.
I don't know, but that's one thing that I remember that kind of stuck with me.
Why did they want you to ski?
Well, later on we went to Alaska,
Yeah.
And they thought at that time, we was kind of in the Cold War with Russia.
That's right, yeah.
And they thought Russia might come across the Bering Sea and try to invade Alaska, I think. So they, the 4th Regimental Combat Team, that's what it was called.
Is this invaded after we bought Alaska from them?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We had Alaska a long time.
That's right, because Hawaii was like 1949, right, that we added them as a state? Or was
Well, no, Alaska was not a state, but it was a territory.
Okay.
It belonged to the United States.
Oh, but it was a territory.
It was a territory.
Okay. And they were going to
Alaska,
invade it.
yeah, it's still a territory when I was there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But they thought Russia might come across and invade, and I'm sure glad they didn't. It'd been awful to be in combat in that snow.
So that's why you were surprised, like, hey, I thought I was going to go to Korea. Like, no, we're going to send you up north because we have other concerns with Russia.
I'm kind of glad they did.
Or the USSR, or whatever.
For one reason that I've thought about it 1,000 times. When I joined the Army, in my hometown of Blairsville, Georgia, I think there was about 5 of us that met the recruiting sergeant.
Hmm.
And this one boy was 17 years old. His dad had to come down and sign for him to get in the Army. He's the only one that didn't come back.
Hmm.
He come up missing in action in Korea. He went to Korea instead of Alaska. We got split up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So 4 of you went to Alaska, and he went to Korea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to Alaska. He went to Korea. I don't know if the 2nd Infantry Division went to Korea just shortly before we went to Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was still in the 2nd Infantry Division. That's the outfit we took basic training in.
So you got some skills, of course, in the military. real quick question on that. When you're growing up where you grew up, was the message in order to get out, if you will, from Gumlog and to earn a living, go to the military?
Well,
was that kind of what highly impressed upon you?
Well, not all that much. I just figured I'd get drafted, and I just thought I'd just go ahead and join and get it over with. And then after I got out, I went back home and stayed on the farm about 3 months before I went to South Carolina.
Yeah, right after Christmas, right? You went back to the Navy Yard.
Yeah.
But I guess what was the general thought of, again, and I want you to be proud of where you're from, but kind of like, hey, if you're going to make something, Charles, of yourself, you got to get out of here. And what's the avenue what options of avenues, I guess, were presented, military being one, right, to kind of get out?
Yeah. Well, and then the draft was hanging over my head.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. A lot of people would left and went and got jobs, and then they'd come back. Now, my dad worked in Ohio for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then he worked a little while down at Lockheed, too. And my brother went to Lockheed, and he stayed there till he retired. But I guess when some people left and went to other places, especially during the war, the wartime jobs, there wasn't many jobs during the Depression anywhere.
That's true.
As for that matter.
Yeah.
And then some of my ancestors, after the Civil War, some of them migrated west and homesteaded in the West. In fact, that may be a roundabout way where some of yours come from. I don't know. But anyway, my great-uncle, Uncle Leeson, and Uncle Emery and Uncle Henry, that was my granddad's brothers, they all went to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And Uncle Leeson homesteaded a place, and he had a big cattle ranch. Emery, he was a dentist. I think he practiced dentistry in Eaton, Colorado. And Henry, Uncle Henry, he went to pharmacy school, but then he worked in Colorado as an irrigator, irrigating crops. But anyway, after they had been out there several years, and my granddad in 1912, he decided he'd go to Colorado. So my dad was 6 years old. I forget how old Aunt Berthy was. Anyway, and Pearl. Anyway, he went to Colorado. And my dad lived in Colorado 6 years when he was growing up. And they homesteaded a place close to Norwood and forget the name of the other little town. And they stayed out there 6 years, and in the meantime, they had another daughter, and she was sickly. And my grandmother didn't like the weather out there, the winters, the cold winters. So I think it was largely to her influence they come back to Georgia in 1918, right after World War I. And but I don't know about a lot of people went off and got jobs, and then some of them would come back. And some of them stayed. So I don't know, to answer your question, I don't know what the general attitude was among everybody. I guess different people had different reasons and different philosophies about it.
Let's talk about meeting Christina, your wife. And is she still she's still here?
No, she's been gone 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Somehow I missed that.
Yeah. Well, when I went to South Carolina, I went down there with a guy that was from Georgia, he's one of our neighbors. He had been down there during the war.
Mm-hmm.
You know, several people that I knew went to South Carolina and other places during the war for wartime jobs. And I don't know if he quit or got laid off at the end of the war, but he had gone back and went back to work in the Navy Yard. Well, he come home on weekends, and I think his wife was up there in Gumlock. Anyway, he told me I told him what I did in the Army, you know, and he said, well, you can get a job in the Navy Yard. So I went back with him one weekend, and went down to the Navy Yard and filled out application. Well, they hired me as electronic mechanic helper because I'd been to radio school. And anyway, I stayed with his sister. They lived down there. I stayed with her for 2 or 3 months or so. Then I found this boarding house down close to the Navy Yard. It was in walking distance of my job. Well, the lady that run the boarding house, she knew my wife, and somehow my wife come to visit her a time or two, and she introduced me to her, and that's how we first met. Then she kept, I tell people I went to South Carolina and I got captured down there, so that's that's about the way
Was it
happened.
love at first sight?
Huh?
Was it love at first sight for you when you first saw her?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I guess I was a little slow, but it come on, it gradually.
I think I read in the book that she had to invite you. I guess ultimately you met her family, but I guess from the book I could see that she was the aggressor or the she moved things along, I guess, in the relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
And she come from a bad situation. Her daddy was an alcoholic, and I mean she was raised on a farm, in the low country. They had all flat land down there. They didn't have any hillsides to farm. But anyway, he was up and down. He would. He'd get on alcohol and stay on it for days at a time.
The kids would hide from him. They were right.
Oh,
Wait till the mom worked at the asbestos factory,
mill,
asbestos mill, and sometimes they would wait till midnight when she showed up, to then go back in the house because they didn't want to be around her.
That happened. Yeah.
Did you? I know that there's a funny part when now that you've moved to Huntsville. Well, fast forward, and you guys lived off Governor's Drive.
Yeah.
And somebody drove by. It was a black guy drove by and recognized your father-in-law.
Her dad come up here to visit us.
Yeah.
And we was all gone to work during the day. Well, he was sitting out in the yard by Governor's Drive.
Chewing tobacco or something, right?
Yeah. And this 18-wheeler come down Governor's Drive and went on down a little piece and stopped, and come back. The guy got out and he said, "Hey, Mr. Pete, what are you doing up here?" 400 and nearly 500 miles from home. And and he told him that his daughter lived here and all, and it was some fellow he knew in South Carolina.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you have what was your relationship like with him when you
we got along pretty good. Yeah.
But you knew, I guess, obviously.
He didn't give me a hard time like he did his own kids.
Was he still an alcoholic throughout his life?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. He would get off of it for a while, but I think so.
And at one point, he went to prison. Like, he killed someone?
Yeah.
And then the governor commuted his sentence?
He gave him a pardon.
Pardoned him?
I don't know how long he stayed. He'd stayed a few years, I think, but he gave him a pardon. Of course, he didn't give him any trouble, and he did anything they wanted him to do, I think.
Yeah. And you and Christina had 2 daughters?
Yeah.
Are they still? Are they still alive?
They're here.
They're here?
Here in the Huntsville.
So they're near you?
Huntsville area, yeah.
And then you have grandkids through them?
Yeah.
How many grandkids?
I got 4 grandkids.
Okay. Do you have any great-grandkids?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any great-great-grandkids?
Yeah. I've lost count.
You've lost count.
I've lost count.
So let's talk about the arsenal. Here's a trivia question for you. It wasn't originally called the Redstone Arsenal. 2 entities came together to create the Redstone Arsenal. Do you know what they were?
No.
This was in 1941.
No.
It was the Redstone Ordnance Facility and the Huntsville Arsenal.
Okay.
And they brought them together to create
Yeah.
the Redstone Arsenal in like 1945 or something
Yeah,
like
you
that.
know more about that than I do.
That's just my fact I'm holding on to.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I know what some of them used to call it. They called it the bullet factory.
yeah. That's where they made all the munitions, right, for World War II.
Yeah, World War II.
And they still say there's a lot of gases underground or maybe some weapons in the ground, right, at Redstone.
Yeah.
But actually, before I ask that, there's a part in the book where you talk about fantasies and, just things you dreamed of as a kid.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that moment when you saw the moon? Can you kind of talk about what that meant to you?
Yeah. I was just out walking around on the hill back in Gumlog, and I was pretty close to the wire fence. I remember that on the hill. And I looked up and I saw the moon. And I don't know, I just got this funny feeling, funny sensation. And I just thought to myself, well, gosh, I might go there someday. I'll just learn how to fly one of these little airplanes and just keep going and going. Of course, back then I didn't know that the air run out. At 20 miles up, you didn't have any air to fly through with an airplane. But I don't know. I've thought about that a lot of times, and I don't know why I had that kind of a dream, a daydream. I don't know why I did that or why I thought like that. But then, lo and behold, I helped send men up there finally. I don't know if that could have been a premonition or something. I don't know.
Do you remember what happened on May 25th, 1961?
Not right off.
That's when JFK announced that we were going to go to the moon.
Oh, okay.
Right? And I guess
okay.
really enter the race to the moon, right, with the Soviets.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess at that point, you're already working at the Arsenal.
Yeah.
And you're 5 years into that.
Yeah.
And I understand if you didn't recall that day, but I'm now assuming you recall the attention that was being put to the space race and going to the moon. And at some point, just as you were describing, you're probably thinking, I probably will have a little bit of part in this, right?
Yeah.
What were you doing in the early 60s as far as...
Well, when I first went to work, I worked with ABMA before NASA existed.
Yep.
And back then, it was a military missile thing,
The Army Ballistic Missile Agency.
Yeah, ABMA. Yeah. And when I first come here, they were building a lot of the equipment in-house. And I worked in the wiring shop for the first 3 or 4 years. I don't know how long. And
on the rocket boosters?
Well, I mostly ground support equipment and then some flight equipment. I was just hooking up wires.
Okay.
Wiring stuff up. And multi-conductor cable assemblies and black boxes and that sort of thing. I didn't understand all of the functions everything did, but I followed the diagram and everything, hooking the wires up and everything. And then to jump ahead a little while, Von Braun, this fellow Von Braun, if you go back and look at his background, he'd been wanting to send rockets up ever since he was a boy. They had a club, I think, in Germany where they were playing around with toy rockets. And, of course, he got in the German army, and they developed the V2 and all of that. Mm-hmm. And then Operation Paperclip, you remember that?
Yeah, that's where they brought him and the 109 engineers.
They wanted to bring them. They wanted to get these.
Because they surrendered to the Army, to the U.S. Army.
Yeah, well,
right? They were Nazis.
I've heard this story from 2 or 3 different sources. Some of them from the Germans that come over here. My boss was he was one of them. His name was Rosinski.
Werner Rosinski.
Werner
right?
Rosinski.
Yeah.
He worked with Von Braun at Peenemünde. But anyway, Von Braun had been wanting to send up a rocket, a satellite.
Mm-hmm.
And after the war, they were still working on, military missiles. But and as time went on, he wanted to send up an artificial Earth satellite. Well, they kind of kept holding him back. Well, after they'd brought the Germans over here, they'd been here for a few years, and the Russians, they got some of the Germans, and they put up Sputnik 1. Well, everybody in Washington jumped up and did a flip and said, good gosh, it's possible to put an artificial Earth satellite up. And wasn't but a short time, the Secretary of Defense called von Braun and General Medeiros, who was ABMA Commanding General, to a meeting in Washington. And the story that went around after they come back, and this story was widespread, said the Secretary of Defense asked him, said, how long would it take to put a satellite up? Von Braun said 60 days. And Medeiros said, well, let's make it 90. He knew von Braun was anxious to go. So I think it was the next day they got a phone call and said, go for it. So we went on overtime and modified a Redstone missile, put an extra stage on it. And,
turn into a rocket.
And they had just put a simple radio transmitter. It just put out beeps so you'd know it was up there. And a Geiger counter to detect the Van Allen radiation belts around the Earth. Mm-hmm. That was about the payload. And I think it was 83 or 84 days we had up Explorer 1.
I believe, like you were just saying, to get an artificial satellite into orbit requires 17,500 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
Penetrate.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's like 20 times the speed of sound. Something crazy like that.
I guess
whatever
so.
it might be.
Yeah.
So what were some of the highlights then leading up to the moon landing? And did you have what were some of the highlights for you just in that we just talked about in 1961, JFK announces we're going to do this. He of course gets assassinated 2 years later in 1963. Yeah. But what was it like kind of going to work during that decade leading up to the landing?
Well, it was interesting and exciting, I guess you could say. And a lot of people thought we were a little crazy thinking we could send men to the moon. Mm-hmm. And but I had read some of von Braun's articles. In fact, that's one thing that influenced me to come to Huntsville. I used to go to a barber shop down in North Charleston on Remount Road, I think it was. Anyway, I go in this old-fashioned barber shop. You just go in and wait for your turn. Well, they had a rack of magazines sitting there. And I happened onto a magazine, I guess on maybe 2 or 3 different times, that von Braun had some articles in it about artificial Earth satellite and possibly sending men to the moon. And that's one thing that I guess that influenced me to look into it a little more. And then 2 or 3 people that I knew had transferred up here to Redstone Arsenal from the Navy Yard. And I'd heard a little about it, and then it was on the news. Remember, Walter Cronkite used to put something on the news about von Braun and, the possibility of sending men to the moon and this sort of thing. So those are some of the influences that got me interested in looking into it. Mm-hmm. And then I found out where Redstone Arsenal was, and I looked on the map to see where Huntsville, Alabama was. I used to go home up to northeast Georgia on weekends from Charleston, back and forth. I'd go home pretty regular. Well, I looked on the map to see where Huntsville was. Well, it's 75 miles closer home than Charleston was. That was another minor influence. And so it's just several things, kind of come together.
Yeah.
And I finally sent an application up here, and finally transferred up here.
And that was 1956?
1956.
So was there for the 5 years leading up to Kennedy's announcement, and then for the decade, like, was there a huge shift in excitement working on the Arsenal, or was it always kind of the same?
Yeah, I think so. I thought about it, and they had this sign up: "What you see, what you hear, when you leave it here."
Okay, yeah.
And that sort of thing, Well, that kind of triggered my mind too. Well, we must be working on something important, And then what little bit I knew about space travel, I said, "Gosh, we may be going to do this,"
Mm-hmm.
So,
what was in your career? What was some of the most gratifying projects that you worked on?
I suppose sending men to the moon. I was involved in. I guess I think I was still wiring up stuff at that time. And then I kind of gravitated more into writing specifications and test procedures and that sort of thing as time went on. We started contracting work out more. Like I said a while ago, we had an in-house wiring shop when I first come here. We were building a lot of the equipment in-house on the Arsenal. And then as time went on, we started contracting out. Teledyne Brown was one company. Hayes International was one. Then there was a company up in Joplin, Missouri later on. This was mostly during the shuttle program that built a lot of multi-conductor cables. And I'd probably been to Joplin 8 or 10 times over a period of a few years to their shop. I had to go and look their shop over and talk to the people and kind of coordinate, be sure they knew what they were doing and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So
I don't know if there's any one single thing, but it was just we must be doing something important,
Yeah. Did you get to meet Wernher von Braun?
I never got to meet him one-on-one. I've seen him.
Yeah.
But my boss knew him good. My boss was named Rosinski. He had been with him at Peenemünde, and I don't know how many years. And
when they came over here, did they speak English? Do you know? Like the 109?
I think they spoke. Well, Rosinski could speak English. He had an accent, but he could speak English. I don't know about all the rest of them, but I know when I overheard him talking on the phone and maybe some others, they were talking in German. He was talking to another German somewhere. But I think they learned English pretty good from what I've seen of Rosinski and some of his other people that I run into.
Now, I know you drove up here in a Lincoln Town Car, but did you also drive some Volkswagens or Audis, like some German vehicles?
Yeah, I've had two
BMWs?
Volkswagens. I had a Beetle.
Yeah.
What was it? I forget what it was, 58, and then I had a Rabbit.
Okay.
So I've had two VWs.
You happy with it?
Yeah. One thing I was looking at was gas mileage. I think I got 32 miles a gallon on one of them. And of course, I wasn't making big money back then.
Yeah.
I still ain't now, but.
You've been retired for, how many years have you been retired now?
Well, I retired from NASA in 81.
Wow.
Then I went back to work for a NASA contractor.
Yeah.
I think about 7 years or a little more.
So you've been done since around 1990.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you believe? So did you ever, I mean, your parents lived a long time. Did you ever think to yourself how long you wanted to live in a way, or how long you expected to live?
I've thought about it, but I don't know. I never had the attitude that I had control over that all that much, but
yeah,
it's nice to go as long as you can.
Sure. And you're still in good health?
But, well, yeah, my knees bothers me and my back hurts a little, but
those are original knees? You never had a...
Yeah.
Because there's
I had some little pellets took out of one of the knee joints. When I got out of the army getting my physical, my knee had been bothering me a little, and this doctor said I had a spur on that knee joint in there. So after a few years went on, it started hurting every once in a while. And one thing I couldn't figure out, it would hurt at a different place in that knee joint. Well, finally I went to the doctor, and he went in there and took them out, and that spur had broke off, and these little pellets were moving around. That's the reason it would hurt in a different place sometimes. Anyway, he got those pellets out, and that's the only knee surgery I've had. But I have had 2 hips replaced.
Okay.
Several years ago.
So you're moving better with the hip replacements.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I ain't moving too good now because my knees has got worse.
But you're still driving.
Oh yeah, I can drive better than I can walk.
Was it hard coming up the stairs?
Yeah, well, it's a little difficult, but if you've got good handrails, I do pretty good with that. But I'd probably have to crawl up them if you didn't have handrails.
Let me ask you this: what is your? There's some skeptics now about did we ever go to the moon in 1969? Oh, yeah. What is your attitude when you hear the criticism or the negativity around that's a hoax or government cover up?
Well, I don't know. I've heard this story about some barber. I didn't know him that lived here in town. He just swore up and down that was just propaganda put out by the government, But I think we'll go on inventing and exploring. When you think back where we come from, when we didn't even have electricity and didn't know what electricity was, we've been exploring and learning.
Yeah.
All down through history, and I think that'll go on.
Yeah.
Although some of it may not be good. I wish we didn't have atomic bombs for one thing, or the possibility or the capability to make them.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things going on now.
This copy of the book I have, you wrote to Cousin Roby Souther with best regards, Charles H. Souther, October 14th, 2014. So that was almost 12 years ago that you gave him the copy of this book.
Yeah.
And this book was written in 2001, I believe, is when you finished it. Is that right?
I'm thinking 2008, but I don't know. I forgot.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, you're right. 2008.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know where I got 2001.
Yeah.
And this is lovingly dedicated to the memory of my mother and father, Paul Wilburn Souther. He was born December 27th, 1906, died December 22nd, 2003. Mm-hmm. And Sarah Mabel Monty Souther, April 10th, 1902 to April 23rd. I'm sorry, October 23rd, 1993. Mm-hmm. What have you been doing since 2008? And how do you?
Well,
what is it still on your list of accomplishments and goals that you have?
Well, I tell my kids and I tell some people I'm just sorry no account anymore, but I'm a lot slower than I used to be. It takes me longer to do it. And I went back and worked on the farm a while.
Did you?
I cut and raked hay for a few years.
In the 90s? After
you
retired?
Yeah, after I retired, and then I've done worked around the house, keep the house up. In fact, I built a porch onto my house after I retired. A little house I live in now on Travis Road. I built a porch on it, and I could still do work for a while, but I can't do it now. And I'm just things around the house, go back and check on the farm, and I still got some farmland in Georgia.
Do you?
Yeah.
In Union County?
Well, yeah, I got some in Union County and I got some in Towns County.
Okay.
They join. They're right next to each other. And I got a house in Towns County at Young Harris. That's about 18 miles from Gumlog.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you some fun questions.
All right.
Who's your favorite actor or actress? I'm assuming you like some movies and some TV shows and such over the years.
My favorite, I don't know.
Or a movie that you go back and you like to watch?
Well, I go back further than that. When we got a radio, the first radio we got, you had batteries with it.
Mm-hmm.
The old original first radio we got had 3 batteries, and 3 little plugs to plug into them. One was for the cathode, the cathode to plate buried, and then we had some bias for the grids and that sort of thing. And but anyway, I guess my favorite program was the Lone Ranger. That was it, the Lone Ranger. Of course, I liked some of them others too, but.
And it probably came on once a week, and you gathered around and listened to it?
Yeah, Lone Ranger and Tonto. And I still remember some of the introduction. With his faithful Indian companion Tonto, the masked rider of the plains led the fight for law and order in our early western United States.
That's awesome.
And nowhere in the pages of history can one be found that was more daring and resourceful. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come a thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again. You remember that?
And they do all the they do all the special effects.
But to answer your question, I don't know. I liked Gene Autry and Tom Mix, and I don't know who else right offhand.
Okay.
I like Western and adventure stories.
Okay. What was your favorite? Do you have a favorite color?
Favorite color? I don't know. I kind of like red pretty good, but I don't know if that's my favorite or not.
Okay. Give me a joke that you would tell. Do you have a go-to joke if you were to try to entertain your daughters or their little friends come over, and you have a dad joke or?
Yeah, I could tell you maybe a true story my dad used to tell. A lot of them old mountaineers up in the Blue Ridge Mountains of northeast Georgia, a lot of them had Bible names. There was an old fellow up there named Joshua Ingram. You remember there's a story in the Bible where the sun stood still? Do you remember that story?
I think so, yeah.
In the book of Joshua, they were fighting a battle with some tribe or nation. They needed more daylight. He prayed for the sun to stand still. Anyway, Joshua Ingram was distilling illicit spirits up in one of the Blue Ridge Mountain hollers in northeast Georgia, and he got intercepted by a federal revenue officer and took into custody. And sometime later on, when they had him in court, the lawyer asked him to state his name. He says, Joshua Ingram. The lawyer says, "Are you the Joshua that made the sun stand still?" He said, "No, sir, I'm the Joshua that made the moon shine." Now, my dad told that. He had a lot of stories, and he talked like that was a true story. So I don't know if it was or not. But I knew some people named Ingram. I knew two or three families named Ingram.
Were they moonshiners?
Well, they could have been. I don't know. They didn't publicize it if they were, but
yeah.
But anyway, that used to be the. We sat around and watched TV. Well, back then you didn't have no TV, and you didn't even have a radio for a long time. But people would gather and visit each other, and they'd tell stories. Well, my dad was a pretty good storyteller. He had all kind of stories about, and that is one of them. and he had a lot of stories about the years he spent in Colorado rounding up cattle and breaking wild horses and picking up potatoes and other things.
How did you propose marriage to your wife?
Well, it wasn't real formal. I just asked her one day. I said, "Are we going to get married?" And that's about it.
Did you have to get down on one knee or anything?
No,
No.
it wasn't. I wasn't into all of that. I'm just country. I'm just no country hick anyway. So.
Did you have a ring for her, or you?
Yeah, I did. I don't know exactly when, but anyway, yeah.
How long did you date before you got engaged?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Probably a year or two.
Okay. Do you remember asking permission of her father?
Yeah, we went and talked to them. I didn't go through any real formal ceremony with that either. I just said, well, me and Christina, we're thinking about getting married. You know, it wasn't real formal, and
okay,
that's about it. I wasn't into all of this formality stuff. I was country and still am, I reckon.
Do you think he respected you more because you had been in the military, or you were getting some training and all that?
I don't know about that, but we got along pretty good.
Okay. Tell me, if you could go back, is there someone you want to apologize to that you never got to apologize to?
I don't know. I guess I would apologize to my parents for disobeying them some. And I don't, right offhand, there's probably, if I could think of them, there's probably plenty of times I would need to apologize to people. But I can't think of any real outstanding thing right at the moment.
Similar question. If there's someone that you never really had a chance to thank and express your gratitude for something they did, can you think of someone who you'd want to?
Well, I guess some of the old-time preachers that preached at Ebenezer Church. John Wade was one of them. Henry Brown was one. I guess the way they preached and the way they laid it out, and it, I think the way they did it was less formal than what a lot of things you see today. And I guess I should have thanked them for what they did for me.
Okay. What are you most proud of when you think about your life?
Well, I'm just, I don't know if you call it being proud of. I'm just thankful that I've had the opportunities I've had to do what I've done. And I know a lot of people have done a lot more than me, especially in the military. And I think about that so much that Claude Stevens that signed up when I did, he gave his life. And I got through it. I had some, tough training and all of that, but I've survived it and made it this far.
Claude's the one that went to Korea?
Huh?
Claude's the one who went to Korea and didn't come back?
Yeah, Claude Stevens, yeah.
Do you have a pet peeve? Do you have pet things that really irritate you?
I don't know. I don't know. I get irritated. Some of my family, they want to argue and carry on. I guess that's my kids. They'll get into a little row sometimes, and I don't like that.
Gotcha. What about phobias? Anything you're afraid of?
Well, I was thinking about this the other day. There's two things I didn't want to do in the military. One of them was go down to the depths of the sea in a submarine. The other one was jumping out of an airplane. so, so I guess
Scared
that
of
would
heights.
scare me. Heights of getting up and jumping out of an airplane. I thought I might have to jump out of one time, but I didn't. We made it good, but I didn't. And we went through some things that I didn't really know about till it was over.
Mm-hmm.
If we got time to go into that a little.
Sure.
When I was in Alaska, and my enlistment was coming up within a month or two, they put out this word out of the what do you call it? The service club, out of the service club, that they were going to go on a trip on the 4th of July over to Nome. That was about 300 miles from, 300 or 400 miles from where I was stationed. And if anybody wanted to sign up, go to the service club and sign up. And so I said, well, maybe I ought to go over there and go to Nome. That's right over on the Bering Sea coast, close to the Bering Sea coast. I said, maybe I ought to do that, since I'll probably never be to Alaska anymore. So I went and signed up, and that time of the year, it was daylight most of the day.
Yeah.
So they told us to be out by the runway like at 7 o'clock or something. And I don't know, they was probably 12 people, maybe 15, 12 people or 15 had gathered out there to go to Nome that day. And they had an old C-47 sitting there. And they had a pilot and a co-pilot and a crew chief. Those were Air Force people.
Mm-hmm.
This crew chief, he was a Air Force Master Sergeant or something. They give all of us a parachute. He got up on his soapbox and he said, we don't anticipate any problem, but we're required by regulation to give you instructions how to use a parachute in case of emergency. So he went through his spiel, and told you if you had to jump and what you did, put in the ripcord, and when you hit the ground, they had a quick release in case the wind was blowing so you could get out of the parachute and it wouldn't drag you along the ground. So he went through his spiel, and we got on board and took off. The weather was beautiful at I was stationed on an air base. We took off and kept going, and it took us, I don't know, a couple hours to get there. Hour and a half, 2 hours. And we started getting into some rough weather as we approached. I got closer to Nome. And I found out later a storm, they'd had a real storm, and it was moving out to sea, but we're still getting into the tail end of it. And we got to Nome, just circled around the airstrip, and the wind was real gusty. You could feel it. The plane would shift this way and that way. We circled around. I looked out the porthole. Them seats, they're little bench seats that fold down. I looked out the porthole on the other side, and I could see the ground, which was probably 50 feet off of the ground.
Whoa.
Coming in for landing. Well, all of a sudden, I heard the engines rev up wide open. We went back up, circled around, and I didn't know what was why we did that. Nobody told us anything. Circled around. This crew chief, went in the cockpit, and he come back out and opened the toolbox and got some tools and went back into the cockpit. And of course, I still didn't know what was going on. I found out all this later. And we circled around about 45 minutes. Finally, we come in for a landing, and the wind was still gusting some. But we come in, and I heard the first wheel hit the great squeal, when you hit the ground. He got our level down. We kept rolling. It was about 50 feet from the end of the runway when it stopped. And the runway went right out to some water. I don't know if this was on the beach or a lake, but anyway, it was water. Well, we got off, and nobody still didn't tell us anything. But I found out later that the wheels, they'd had a hydraulic leak, and the wheels hadn't come down the first pass.
Yeah.
and anyway, they let us out, and we went into Nome and just walked around and went shopping and one thing and another, and just seeing the area and Rome. They worked on it about 4 or 5 hours. They was working on the plane all the time we was in there. So they put out the word when they got ready to go. Said, well, we're ready to go. So we got back on, took off, and the storm had calmed down by then. So we got and had good weather all the way back. But it took us a lot longer to get back than it did to go. Well, I wondered about that. I wondered why it's taking so long.
Headwind.
And no.
No.
We'll get to that in a minute. So we got back to Eilerson Air Force Base. That's where I was stationed, coming in for a landing. I looked out the porthole. They had fire trucks and ambulances lined up along the side of the runway. Well, we come all the way back with the wheels down. They was afraid to fold them up, afraid they wouldn't come back down.
So it's drag.
Yeah, and that put a drag. That's the reason it took us longer to get back. But we made a perfect landing coming in. And I found out all of this after the fact, after it was over with. So I could have had to jump out of an airplane that time.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
I'm sure as you think back on your life and the spectacular things that have happened, one of them for me is when that, what's his name, Captain Sullenberger landed the U.S. Airways on the Hudson River. And this was in 2009.
Yeah, I remember that.
I just still find that so fascinating, like to have a captain of that experience pull that off.
Yeah.
To land.
They didn't lose anybody, did
No.
they?
It was cold. It was January. So frigidly cold in New York City.
Yeah.
The water's frigid.
Yeah.
So, and it's one thing to land the plane and it's floating for a while, and then to get everyone out outside and get the ships to come and the boats to rescue them before anyone gets hypothermia.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But amazing for him to land that.
Yeah.
Because he lost thrust within a minute of taking off.
Yeah.
And it just turned into a glider.
Yeah.
So things like that, I'm sure that just captivate me and my interest in humans that do amazing things, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure you could probably have countless things in your life and you go back through and think about.
Yeah.
Well, sir, do you have any final thoughts or what we'd like to call shout outs to anyone?
Well, no, since you mentioned that, I nearly got run over by a tank one
time.
Did you? we
when you were deployed?
We were going on a field problem.
Yeah.
This was in Alaska, I think. And I was operating the radio for this, I don't remember if it was a company commander or battalion commander. Anyway, I had to get in the back seat of this Jeep, and the Jeep had the driver and then another guy in the front seat, and there's 2 or 3 of us in the back seat. And just kind of jammed in. I had to get the radio, and I was going to be the radio operator. Well, this tank was in front of us, and the guy hadn't cranked up the Jeep yet. Well, this tank was coming backwards towards us real fast. And, the driver in the tank, he can't see where he's going. He has to have somebody standing up and,
tell him, left, right,
guiding his shoulders or something. Anyway, this guy got it cranked, and he got it in reverse, and he got us out of the way just in the nick of time. I tell you, that was a close call there.
Crunch.
Yeah.
Have you written a lot of these things down? Besides your book, are you also journaling?
No, I'm not doing a lot of that, no.
You got to do more interviews. Why don't you just come over here once a month, and I'll talk to you for 2 hours, and we'll just document your whole life.
They'll probably put you off there. I mentioned to her a while ago, I want one story about, my distant cousin that lives here in Huntsville. Many years ago, when I was still working for NASA, I had a desk job then. I wasn't in the wiring shop anymore. Anyway, this guy come into our office to see my boss. He was a NASA contractor. I think he worked for North American Rockwell or somebody. Anyway, he come by my desk, and he saw my name on my desk. I had a little homemade piece of cedar wood with my name on it, and he saw my name, and he stopped, talked to me a minute. He says, my wife was a Souther. They pronounce it Souther. They was from North Carolina originally. Anyway, his name was Clint Hoover. And as we got more and more acquainted, he started looking into how I might be related to his wife, and he started doing some genealogical research, and he traced us back to a common ancestor about 3 or 4 generations back. And I knew where my ancestors had come from, Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Well, that's where her ancestors come from, Wilkesboro. So he connected us up, and I don't know if it's 3 generations back or 4, but anyway, that's how I met her. And I still see her about every week, and we have breakfast. But he passed away 7 or 8 years ago. But his name was Clinton Hoover, and come to find out, he was a distant cousin of Herbert Hoover. And I thought that is unusual. He tells me about his wife's my distant cousin, and then he's related to the guy I was named after. I thought that was an unusual situation.
Yeah. And you're like, I'm Charles Hoover.
Yeah.
Now, did you...
Charles Curtis was vice president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how you got Charles from that.
Yeah.
And then Hoover was your middle name for President Hoover. I was going to ask you a question. I forgot it.
Well, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No. I was trying to think as you were talking. I had a question related to that I was going to ask you. You know, my name is completely made up.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, we're Norwegian. My father's line.
Yeah.
And our name was Esiason. And then I think when my great grandfather came they went to Minnesota, the Buys. I think they like it cold, and they went through Ellis Island and they changed their name.
Oh,
and I guess that was pretty common.
Yeah,
a lot of people got their names changed right when they immigrated.
Yeah. Well, I think our name is. I did a little research on that. I think maybe our name may be Scotch.
Oh, I thought it was German.
German?
Was it?
Of course it's German. Makes sense.
Yeah.
You had an affinity for the Germans.
Well,
yeah.
Because Aunt Rita goes to Germanic colony stuff and has done research on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, now my distant cousin, they pronounce it Souther.
Yeah.
But it's the direction south with the ER.
But like you said, because the guy I knew in Virginia, he said the same thing. His name was Souther. I know I was going to ask you. Did anybody ever call you like Chuck or Charlie?
Where I worked, they used to call me Charlie.
Charlie? So you weren't always just Charles?
No.
Mostly to your family? You were Charles?
Well, yeah. And just the people that I worked close with at work, I don't know, they just started calling me Charlie.
What about Chuck?
I've been called that, but not a whole lot.
You know you're in trouble when it's Charles Hoover Souther. You come here right now, right? Your mother. When your mother or father calls you by your full name, you know you're in trouble.
Yeah. But I thought that was unusual. My distant cousin was a distant cousin of Herbert Hoover.
Yeah.
And I was named after him, and his wife is my distant cousin.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any final thoughts? In your first interview?
First interview, I figured you wouldn't want me back no more.
Oh, of course. This is amazing.
I don't know. I found out something. My daughter got me one of these kits that you can spit in it and send it off and get a DNA test.
Yeah.
Here a couple of years ago for Christmas. That was my Christmas present. Well, I sent it off, and it come back, English, Scotch, Irish, and 25% Scandinavian. And I didn't know about that. That surprised me. 25% Scandinavian.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's that? That's Norwegian and
Finland,
Denmark,
Sweden.
Norwegian, and
Yeah, sweet. Yeah,
Sweden.
yeah.
So I don't know.
You're a mutt. You're a mix of many things.
Must
right?
be.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Well, I'm glad to do it for whatever it's worth, but I don't think I'm much of a star.
Hey, everyone has a story.
Yeah.
And we are all, it's just like I was telling someone the other day. You could be the president of the United States. You could be it doesn't matter to me. It's just a person.
Yeah.
You know, it could be Michael Jordan or it could be Gene Autry.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they're just people,
Uh-huh.
right? They're just human beings. And,
Yeah.
and ultimately, when you put these headphones on and you talk, we're just talking.
Yeah.
So everyone's important, and everyone has a story. And you, my friend, 97 years of an amazing life.
Well, I'm thankful that I made it this long, and I'd like to get something done for my knees, but I'll go on as long as I can.
I think you're going to be one that we might read about you in the paper soon. You're the oldest person in Huntsville. You can be 100, 108, 109. And
I don't know about
still
that.
driving a Lincoln Town Car. And
I don't know about that. I did see something on TV not long ago. Somebody was over 100 here in town.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, sir, thank you so much again.
Sure.
And I know that the Souther family will be anxious to consume this.
Oh,
and
how do you get? Can you just pull up on the internet? Can you just pull up my town?
Our town.
Our town.
Yeah, you can get it. YouTube is a very easy thing, and a lot of times I don't know what kind of TV you have. Some of the smart TVs now. I also run it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
YouTube might be the easiest thing that's free. Is to just pull up the Our Town podcast with Troy By.
Yeah.
But we'll send you. We'll email you a link. We'll email you a link.
Well, I think I can get it. Get it. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll make sure. And
I hope it didn't ruin your equipment or nothing.
No, it was very gentle. But we appreciate it. You have a. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to tell you about. We've got another distant relative here in Decatur. And his name is, let me think, Dallas Southers. Okay. He's got an S added onto his name.
Oh, boy.
But his real name is Souther. And my dad knew his dad, and his name was Souther back then. But Dallas, and I talked to him not too long ago, he's very sickly right now. He lives in Decatur, I think. And his dad, Dallas told me this. His dad's birth certificate has got Souther on it. And then he migrated to Akron, Ohio many years ago, and that's where he passed on. And his death certificate is Souters. So somehow they got an S added onto his name.
Interesting.
After he migrated to Ohio. And his name is Dallas Southers. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thanks again, and maybe we'll have you back.
Well, okay.
Definitely when you turn 100, we're having you back.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Take care.